awesome that you saw up on stage today. Well, love happens to be the theme of this piece, and the quest for love. So, last year, through a series of unfortunate events, I found myself suddenly single. This is where you all go, aw. Thank you, thank you. Now, it just so happens that I occasionally write articles for magazines, and while still happily partnered, I was tasked with writing an article dispensing dating advice to queer people over 40. The magazine titled is Queer 40. It's a real magazine. You can Google it. My name's there. Yeah. My readers seemed to eat up my chirpy encouragement about how to begin dating again at age 40 and better, so I thought that I knew what I was talking about. However, my change in status now put me in the terrible position where I would need to follow my own dating advice. And as it turns out, my advice is quite questionable. But first, I needed to ascertain when I would start dating again. And for that, I turned to the real relationship experts, my friends. My dear friend, Pam, advised that I take a year to heal and reacquaint myself with the activities that I had put off while coupled. Meanwhile, my dear friend Angie told me that the best way to get over someone is to get under someone. Actually, I'm more of a top, but Angie didn't know that. Anyway, you know whose advice I followed. So there I was, learning to date again. This is the story of a published relationship expert's less than optimal dating experiences, and one of them took place at a storytelling event much like this one. To start off my foray into dating, I followed the advice that I'd offered in my article, and I joined a meetup. If you've somehow missed Meetup, it's an app where people form interest groups and they invite others to join. There are meetups for all sorts of things, including writing groups, book clubs, recreational volleyball, hiking, running clubs, and single lesbians over 40. That last one is the one that I joined. My first experience with the group took place in a brewery. I don't like beer. And I was understandably uncomfortable. I don't like to be uncomfortable. I was handed a name tag and pointed toward the outdoor patio and cheerfully told that I was now single and ready to mingle. Yeah, a phrase that, while vaguely poetic in its rhyming cadence, made the newly single me want to stab myself in the eye with a fork many, many times. The first woman to engage me in conversation was an aerialist, which is hands down one of the most interesting career choices I have come across to date. I had so many questions. Did she use a tightrope, a trapeze? Are there silks? Is there a net? But before I could ask her any questions about all of this, she said that she wanted to show me what she is really passionate about. And she pulled out her phone to show me a picture of her cat. Lesbians and cats are a stereotype for a reason, my friends. So I thought she'd show me maybe one photo of her cat. No. After about 30 feline photographs and intimate details about her cat's unique personality traits, I was concerned that there was going to be a quiz. But thanks to the aerialist, I now know that if a cat sticks its rear end in your face, it's a sign that the cat trusts you. I said, what a coincidence. That's also my sign that I trust you. She did not pick up on the humor. So I excused myself and I went to get another beer, and I ran right into the next group member. This one also showed me pictures of her pets. But I have to give her mad props for creative photography because her pets were snakes, and she took, snakes, and she took pictures of the snakes alongside of her body. So there were a lot of pictures of boas and breasts and cobras and cleavage. Those weren't really the type of snakes, but you get the image that those photos were talking about. So again, I excused myself to get a beer, and I ran into my favorite group member. The elephant in the room was that this one was wearing, I kid you not, a purple eye patch over her right eye. While talking to her, I kept a running dialogue in my head. Don't ask about the patch, Trish. Look into the left eye. Just look into the left eye. And despite being one who frequently puts her foot really far into her mouth, I was able to keep my mouth shut and stare deep into her left pupil. And I thought I was doing a pretty good job until she went to the bathroom and came back. Now wearing the eye patch over her left eye. This threw me. I could think of no reason, no medical reason why someone would move a patch from one eye to the other. And I didn't have a chance to ask her any questions because at that moment she reached into her bag, pulled out a sketchbook, and began dramatically creating caricatures of people who were there at the meetup. At this point, I tapped out. I gathered my things and I went to my car. From the parking lot, I called Pam, the one who told me to take a year for self-exploration. Are you sure you're at the right meetup? It sounds like a meetup for circus performers. I double-checked the app. No, it was not a meetup for circus folk. Just single lesbians over 40. Same thing. When I had given readers advice to go to meetups, okay, I hadn't actually tried it myself. And now that I was trying it, I realized that it was not working, at least not for me. So I moved to the second strategy that I'd suggested in my article, and I joined a dating app for women. Now, I was no stranger to dating apps. I'd used one many years ago. I was quickly reminded that dating apps move through a series of steps. You must both swipe right, and to begin the task of trying to sound intelligent and interesting during what I call the chat phase. The chat phase can last mere minutes for hookups. Not that I've ever tried that. Or it could proceed indefinitely, where two nervous lesbians essentially become pen pals for the rest of their lives. Now, I'm not a pen pal type of gal. So, after a period of chatting, I suggest meeting in a public place. And this brings me to storytelling. I'd been chatting with Cassie for about a week, and I suggested that we meet at a storytelling event for our very first face-to-face. I mean, look at us. I mean, we're drinking, we're being entertained. There's a short intermission at some of them where you can gauge whether you want to stay and talk to your new date after the show or work in an emergency exit strategy if you don't. So storytelling events are essentially the perfect first date. On the night that I met Cassie, she had to work late, so I arrived early to save her seat. The room began to fill with storytelling enthusiasts, and one of them, I am not going to tell you her name. It was Sandy. Sandy approached me to ask if the seat next to me was taken. I happily offered the seat to my left, leaving the seat on my right for Cassie, and as Sandy took her seat, she gestured to the stage with her drink, and she told me that this is her first time at a storytelling event. She only came because her butch therapist told her that she should come. Now, it just so happens that I, too, have a butch therapist. So I said, sounds like Claudia. Sandy's face pulls into a mask of surprise. Her therapist is also named Claudia. Wonder of wonders, we have the same therapist. What a coincidence. She will be seeing Claudia tomorrow. What is my name? So she can completely disregard HIPAA and tell Claudia this funny story. Sandy goes to get another drink, I check my phone, and I see a text from Cassie that she will not arrive until after the presentations begin. Sandy returns from the bar, and she resumes her seat just as the first speaker takes the stage. Partway through the second speaker, Cassie arrives. She politely waits for the applause before making her way over to me, and I slide over, and Cassie takes the seat between Sandy and me. At intermission, Cassie and I finally have a moment to talk. First meets always have this element of awkward to them, and the awkward was compounded because Cassie wanted to apologize for being late. She explained that she'd been in such a hurry to meet me that she locked herself out of her apartment. It was at this moment that Sandy returns with yet another drink and interrupts Cassie with a slightly slurred, "I'm Cassie, and this is my friend Trish." And she points to me as though we're old friends, an old friend that I always bring along as moral support on my first dates. And then she proceeds to lean into Cassie and she stage whispers, "Trish and I go to the same therapist." And then she winks at me. Now, let me just say that I am a big supporter of mental health, and I hardly approve of everyone having a therapist. It's just that I didn't want to discuss therapy in the first 5 minutes of my first date with Cassie. I was not even sure how to respond to Sandy's gross HIPAA violation, and I didn't even have to worry about it because intermission abruptly ended and the next speaker took the stage, which meant that Cassie would be chewing over what had just transpired with who she thinks may be my best friend and first date moral support person, Sandy, for the next 3 speakers. Luckily, Cassie was a good sport, and we had a good laugh about it afterward. Now, I tell you all of this to bring it back full circle. Pam and Angie were both right. In my next article, Giving Dating Advice, I will advise my readers, as Pam suggested, to continue to pursue their passions. Writing is one of mine, which is why I am up on the stage today. And I will also advise my readers, just as Angie suggested, to get out there and be brave and to meet people. I have met some wild, wonderful, kind, generous, and fascinating people, and it has given me so much pleasure getting to know them. But no one has me yet, folks. So after the show, come on over. I have a QR code. You can leave your number, and you can read all sorts of advice about how to date a published relationship columnist who gives questionable dating advice. But I also feel like I need to give a shout out to the Single Lesbians Over 40 meetup group. They are really good people. Don't tell them what I wrote about them. It'll stay right here in this room. All right, thank you.